Hello dear students, welcome to the English class. This is Farzana Shamim, lecturer in English. Today we are going to read a very interesting story written by R.K. Lakshman. This story has been taken from your English textbook Rainbow of English, Section C, Chapter 4, Ab Padho Punjab, Padha Punjab, Project English. Well, you might be wondering why I have not yet told you the name of the story. Actually, I want you to guess the title of the story. But how? Have a look. Look at the picture and guess the title of the story. See the color. That's fantastic. The story is The Gold Frame and the author R.K. Lakshman. I have another activity for you. Look at the given pictures. Try to guess the plot of the story. It's almost like the picture composition that you have been doing in your lower classes. These 4 pictures are closely related to the story that we are going to do. Come on, do it. You need not write anything. I'm sure you all might have framed the story. Just store it in your mind. After we have read the story, you can judge for yourself how close your story is to the story that we are going to read. The Gold Frame by R.K. Lakshman. Now, let's know something about the writer R.K. Lakshman. Rasipuram Krishnaswamy Iyer Lakshman, born on 24th October 1921 in Mysore, passed away on 26 January 2015 in Pune, was an Indian cartoonist, illustrator and humorist. He was widely regarded as India's greatest ever cartoonist and was best known for his creation, a cartoon, The Common Man. It represented the attitude, the aspirations, the troubles and even the foibles of the common man through a short daily cartoon strip, You Said It, that was published in the Times of India. Okay, now let us learn some new words. These words will help you to enjoy the story and to understand the story very well. I'll read out each word. I'll speak out each word twice. You repeat after me so that you get the exact pronunciation. The first word, wobbly. Wobbly. Moving unsteadily from side to side. Look at the wobbly legs of the sick person. The next word, laconic. Laconic means brief. He gave a laconic account of what had happened, a very short account. Intrude. Intrude means interfere. Do not intrude when your opinion has not been sought. Do not interfere. Grope. Grope. To search for something. She groped around in a purse looking for a pen. The next word, philanthropist. Philanthropist. A person who helps the poor and the needy by the generous donation of money to good cause. You might have heard about Sonu Sood, who helped the migrant laborers. He is a philanthropist. Okay? Extravagant. Extravagant. Lacking control in spending money or using resources. When you spend more than required. Henry is so extravagant that he bought a new car although he already has 2 cars in excellent conditions. Stint. Stint. To provide or use only a small amount of something. To be stingy. Miser. No parent stint when it is the question of their child's health and education. Next, baffled. baffled, confused. The multiple varieties of dresses in the mall baffled her, confused her, so much that she could not decide which dress to buy. The next word, profusion. Profusion. A large quantity. Roses grew in profusion, in large quantity, in the garden. Soulful looking. Soulful looking. Sad looking. Look at the lady. She's so sad. Silverfish. Silverfish. It's not any kind of fish. It's a small silver colored insect. Execute. Execute. Put a plan or course of action into effect. He always executes all the tasks given to him sincerely and dedicatedly. He does all his tasks sincerely and dedicatedly. Now let's revise and recapitulate. Match the words in column A with their meanings in column B. Words in column A: profusion, execute, baffled, laconic, intrude. And the meanings in column B: confused, interfere, in large quantity, put a plan or course of action into effect, brief. Now let's do it. Profusion. Execute. Baffled. Laconic. Intrude. Let's see the answers. Profusion, in large quantity. Execute, put a plan or course of action into effect. Baffled, confused. Laconic, brief. Intrude, interfere. Excited to read the story? Let's get started. The modern frameworks was actually an extra large wooden packing case mounted on wobbly legs tucked in a gap between a drugstore and a radio repair shop. Its owner, Datta, with his concave figure, silver-rimmed glasses and a complexion of seasoned timber, fitted into his shop with the harmony of fixture. He was a silent, hard-working man. He gave only laconic answers to the questions his customers asked and strongly discouraged casual friends who tried to intrude on his zone of silence with their idle gossip. He was always seen sitting hunched up, surrounded by a confusion of cardboard pieces, bits of wood, glass sheets, boxes of nails, glue bottles, paint tins, and other odds and ends that went in to putting a picture in a frame. You know, Datta's shop was known as the Modern Frameworks. His shop looked like the shop you see in the picture, a large wooden box with wooden legs. Now coming to the appearance of Datta. Datta always sat hunched up. As you see in the picture, the man sitting on a chair, hunched up, so that his spine has formed a curve and the front surface of his body has curved inwards, forming a concave figure. The complexion of Datta, the color of his body, was like seasoned timber. Look at the picture. Freshly cut logs of wood, that are light in color, and when they are placed in, left in sun and air, they turn into reddish brown seasoned timber. You see in the picture? Okay. Datta was a silent, hard-working man. His working tools were always lying all around him, and he did not allow friends to gather in his shop for idle gossips. In this medley, a glass cutter or a pencil stub was often lost,
and that was when he would uncoil from his posture and grope impatiently for it. Many times he had to stand up and shake his dhoti vigorously to dislodge the lost object. This operation rocked the whole shop, setting the pictures on the walls gently swinging. There was not an inch of space that was not covered by a picture. Gods, saints, hockey players, children, cheap prints of the Mona Lisa, national leaders, wedding couples, Urdu calligraphy, the snow-clad Fujiyama and many others coexisted with a cheerful incongruity like some fabulous world awaiting order and arrangement. So, very often Datta would lose a pencil stub or a glass cutter. Then he would uncoil from his posture to look for it. Look at the picture of the kids sitting hunched up. When they stand up, their bodies would become straight. This is uncoiling of posture, just like uncoiling of a wire. Okay? The walls of his shop were filled with pictures that were not properly arranged. Hence, his shop looked like a fabulous world with different varieties of people who did not live harmoniously, so that a proper discipline and arrangement was required to give it a complete facelift, a proper look.
A customer standing outside the shop on the pavement, obstructing the stream of jostling pedestrians, announced, "I want this picture framed." Datta, with his habitual indifference, ignored him and continued to be engaged in driving screws into the sides of a frame. "I want a really good job done, no matter how much it costs." The customer volunteered the information, unwrapping a faded newspaper and exposing a sepia brown photograph of an old man. It was sharp and highly glazed in spite of its antiquity. "What sort of a frame would you like?" Datta asked, still bent over his work. "The best, of course. Do you expect I would stint where this great soul is concerned?" A customer came to Datta's shop to get a sepia brown, a reddish brown picture of his grandfather framed with the best frame. He said that he would pay any amount for the frame because the photograph was that of his grandfather, whom he referred to as a great soul. This shows his deep love and respect for his grandfather. Well, dear students, do you also love and respect your grandparents? Well, you must. Datta gave a side glance and caught a glimpse of the photograph. Just another elderly person of those days, he told himself. A standard portrait of a grandfather, a philanthropist, a social worker with the inevitable whiskers and top-heavy cascading turban. It could be any one of these. At least half a dozen people came to him every month bearing similar portraits, wanting to demonstrate their homage to the person in the picture in the shape of a glittering frame. The customer was describing the greatness of the man. Extravagant qualities of nobility, compassion and charity were being generously attributed to him in a voice that came close to the chanting of a holy scripture. Datta looked at the picture casually because at least half a dozen people came to him every month demanding the best frames for such portraits, just to show off that how much they loved and respected the person in the portrait. The customer then began describing generously the greatness of his grandfather as to how noble, compassionate and charitable he was. The way he was saying it seemed as if he was reading hymns from a holy book. If this world had just a few more like him, believe me, it would certainly have been a different place. Of course, there are demons who may not agree with me. They are out to disgrace his name and destroy his memory. But he is God in my home. What sort of a frame do you want? Datta interrupted. Plain, wooden, lacquer, gold, plastic, or just enamel painted? He waved a casual hand towards the pictures on the wall. The customer silently surveyed the various frames. After some time, Datta heard him mumble, "I want the best." "I don't have any second-rate stuff in my shop," Datta said. The customer told him that this world would have been a different place had there been a few more people like his grandfather. But there were devilish people who wished to disgrace him and destroy his memory. But Datta is least interested in all this stuff. He interrupted him, asking him what sort of frame he wanted, and then itemized the different kinds of frames he had. The customer examined the frames carefully so that he could select the best frame for his grandfather's portrait. He was shown a number of samples: plain, decorative, floral, geometrical, thin, hefty, and so forth. The customer was baffled by the variety. He examined the selection before him for a long time, as if he was unsure of his judgment and was afraid of enshrining his savior forever in some ugly, cheap frame. Datta came to his rescue and recommended one with a profusion of gold leaves and winding creepers. And in order to clear any lingering doubt he might still harbor in regard to its quality, added, "It is German, imported." See, the different varieties of frames in Datta's shop confused the customer. He examined the frames for a long time because he did not want to enshrine his grandfather's picture in some cheap, ugly frame by making a wrong choice in haste. Dear students, a shrine is a place regarded as holy. The customer regarded the frame as a shrine where he would place the holy portrait of his grandfather. Therefore, the word enshrined is used here. Datta then helped the customer to select a beautiful frame that had plenty of gold leaves and winding creepers. He also tempted him by saying that the frame was imported from Germany. The customer at once seemed impressed and silent. Datta next asked, "You want a plain mount or a cut mount?" and watched the puzzled look return. Again he helped the man out by showing his various mounts and suggested that the cut mount looked more elegant. "All right, let me have a cut mount then." "Is that a cut mount?" he asked, pointing to a framed picture on the wall of a soulful looking lady in an oval cut mount. The customer was highly impressed. Datta then asked him if he wanted a plain mount or a cut mount. Look at the pictures. The first one is a plain mount and the second one is a cut mount. The cut mount can be oval, square, rectangular, or any shape. Here again the customer was puzzled. Datta then suggested that cut mount would look more elegant. The customer agreed and, pointing at the framed picture of a soulful looking lady, he wanted to know if it was cut mount. "I like that frame. Will it cost much?" "No. Frame, mount, glass, all will cost 17 rupees. The customer had expected it would be more. He pretended to be shocked all the same and tried to bargain. Datta withdrew to his corner without replying and began to cut a piece of plywood. The customer hung about uncertainly for some time and finally asked, "When will you have it ready?" and barely heard the reply over the vibrating noise of the saw on the plywood. 2 weeks from today. The customer then enquired if the oval cut mount frame was expensive. "Frame, mount, glass would cost 17 rupees, said Datta. Although the price was much below his expectation, the customer pretended to be shocked and bargained. See what a hypocrite he was. Datta ignored him and began to cut a plywood. After waiting for some time, the customer wanted to know when it would be ready. 2 weeks from today, Datta said casually. Datta had learned by long experience that his customers never came punctually. They came days in advance and went away disappointed, or came months later. And some never turned at all, and their pictures lay unclaimed in a box, gathering dust and feeding cockroaches and silverfish. Therefore, he made frames for those who came to him and visited him at least twice before he actually executed their orders. 10 days later, the tall, rusting-looking man appeared and inquired, "Has the picture been framed?" I was passing by and thought I could collect it if it was ready. Datta cast us sideways, looked at him and continued with his work. "I know, I have come 4 days early." The customer grinned nervously. Datta had learned from his long experience that some customers never came punctually. Some came days in advance, some came months later, and some did not come at all. So Datta started the work of only that customer who had actually visited him at least twice. This particular customer arrived 4 days earlier. Datta ignored him completely. The customer was embarrassed and admitted that he had come 4 days in advance. Well, dear students, this is the end of the first part of the story. We'll do the next part in the next session. Till then, keep thinking as to what would have happened after this. Did the customer get the framed picture of his grandfather on time? Okay? Well, dear students, the hungrier you are, the better the food tastes. So if you keep thinking about the story, your eagerness will increase. You will find the story more exciting, more interesting. Okay? Now, let's do some activities. Let's recapitulate. Okay? I have 2 very simple activities for you. The first post-reading activity has 2 parts. Answer the following questions and choose the correct option to fill in the blanks. Let's do them one by one. Answer the following questions. Who was the owner of the modern frameworks? Think of the answer. What did the frame maker often lose? What did the frame maker often lose? Was the customer punctual or unpunctual? Next, choose the correct option to fill in the blanks. The color of the photograph was black and white, light skin color, sepia brown, none of the 3. Fill in the blank. Datta charged dash rupees for the frame. 17, 18, 19, 20. Let's see the answers. Who was the owner of the modern frameworks? Datta was the owner of the modern frameworks. What did the frame maker often lose? The frame maker often lost a glass cutter or a pencil stub. Was the customer punctual or unpunctual? The customer was punctual. Choose the correct option. The color of the photograph was sepia brown. Datta charged 17 rupees for the frame. The second activity, fill in the blanks using appropriate words given in the box. Bargain, executed, sideways, suggested, antiquity, profusion, glimpse, baffled. Now let's do the first sentence. The photograph was sharp and highly glazed in spite of its dash. The customer was dashed by the variety. Datta recommended a frame with a dash of gold leaves. The customer pretended to be shocked and tried to dash. Datta cast a dash look at the customer and continued his work. Let's see the answers. The photograph was sharp and highly glazed in spite of its antiquity. The customer was baffled by the variety. Datta recommended a frame with a profusion of gold leaves. The customer pretended to be shocked and tried to bargain. Datta cast a sideways look at the customer and continued his work. Well, it's time for home assignment. Here is a question for you. A very simple one. Answer the following question in 50 to 60 words.
How does the author describe the shop owned by Datta?
First, jot down the points and then frame sentences. I hope you will execute your homework sincerely. Before we call it a day, before we wind up, let us quickly discuss about Datta and the customer. Well, Datta has been portrayed as a very simple, honest and hardworking person. At the same time, he is rude and callous. See how he was ignoring the customer and did not even respect his feelings when he was speaking about his grandfather's greatness. Now coming to the customer. On one hand, he wanted the best frame for his grandfather's portrait and said he did not bother about the price. On the other hand, he wanted to know if the frame was expensive and even bargained with Datta, even though he had charged only 17 rupees. So, we see Lakshman, R.K. Lakshman has tried to reflect the attitude, false prestige and hypocrisy of the modern people through Datta and the customer. So, that's all for the day from your presenter, Farzana Shamim, lecturer in English, Government Senior Secondary School, Chandbaja, Faridkot. This is an initiative by Department of School Education, Punjab. Thank you very much. Happy thinking till we meet again in the next session with the next part of the story.